Hey guys, welcome to episode number 8 of Intelligent Wrestling Talk. I am Dan Janoff.
And this is Anthony Feliciano, aka Tony V of Pro Wrestling World, ready to give you the intensity, integrity, and intelligence of all things wrestling. Come on, Dan, take it away.
And if this is your first time listening to us, we run through the week that was wrestling on TV. And we bring you some news, some history on ourselves, wrestling itself, and we actually answer questions submitted by other people who are in our Facebook group.
The following segment is everything you need to know about Raw.
It started off with the show with Triple H being in the ring, seeing the Shield guarding him at ringside, kind of something we've been seeing a lot lately. He brings out the face of the WWE, Randy Orton, and he comes out and says, you shouldn't respect him. Then you're disrespecting the entire WWE, and they all need to be dealt with, those kinds of people. And Triple H also says that Orton deserves the best, and that Bryan will never be WWE champion. We then see Bryan come out and take some shots at Triple H and Orton, and sparking Triple H to that he should make the Big Show go up against them in the main event. And that would be something we'd see later on, where leading up to it, it was a little bit difficult to see if Big Show was actually going to do it or not, but Stephanie finally ended up convincing him, giving him, kind of making it real, kind of bringing in some real life problems into it. And of course, here comes Big Show again, crying again, and I kind of think like he needs to eat some custard pie or something to make him feel better, kind of like in those Snickers commercials or something. But we would see end up seeing Daniel Bryan take on the Big Show, and once again, Big Show very reluctant to do anything to Bryan, like he's afraid to hurt him or something. And it eventually got to the point where Triple H ended up coming out with the Shield and tells the Big Show to finish the match. Big Show keeps on saying no. Then the Shield goes after Bryan. Then Big Show almost looks like he's going to help Bryan, but then Triple H tells him not to do it and to knock Bryan out. At first he says no. Stephanie comes out and convinces him otherwise, while once again crying. Then Orton comes down to the ring, holding the championship belt over Bryan, kind of overkill. I don't know what else to really say about the Big Show, because this is something we keep on seeing every week where they just have him crying and crying and crying.
That's right, Dan. They took the monster heel from earlier this year, going up against Alberto Del Rio, the face version Alberto Del Rio, from losing to him in this last man standing match to becoming this crybaby wimp that they're putting him on TV week after week, and I am getting utterly sick and tired of it. He is the giant hippopotamus of this arena currently, and I'm really pissed that they're doing this to him. Maybe this is what he wants. I don't know, but this is certainly not what we want, and it's bad for business.
Agreed with that. And the next major event to happen
is Sheamus' appearance.
Oh yeah,
right in the ringside, right by the front aisle area. There goes Sheamus. But continue, Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he had his World Heavyweight Championship belt as well. Anyway, the next major event we would see is Cody Rhodes confronting Triple H and Randy Orton backstage, and pretty much on the side of Bryan. And Triple H ends up deciding to give him a bit of a wedding present and puts him in a match against Orton, where they kind of made it sound like at first, if Cody lost, he would be fired, and we would soon kind of put that together that he would be fired. And in that match, the crowd firmly behind Cody. We would even see Cody hit crossroads on Orton. Everyone it kind of looked like he may have pulled it off, but nope, not if Orton had anything to say about it. He got the RKO, got the victory, and then Triple H comes out to get him his future endeavors, and this is, and I just think, obviously, I think he'll be back, just because there was a lot of discussion in the group about it, like how long he was going to be gone or what was going to be his place really in the company. And I think, it's going to be a much bigger part of this, especially considering the backstage interview afterwards where he pretty much said that the McMahons always had a problem with the entire Rhodes family.
Yeah, wasn't it something like they made his brother or whatever wear gold and he's never been the same ever since?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and said something about his father too. Don't remember exactly what he said, but
I don't remember the direct quote either. But I just remember the Goldust quote because that was memorable to me. He hasn't been the same ever since.
Yeah, so he'll definitely be back. He'll go on his honeymoon or whatever.
He's banging his wife.
To put it that way, yes. Okay. Moving into early on in the nights, we would see apparently Triple H seems to have some things against Paul Heyman. We kind of assumed since he turned heel that he would be siding with all the heels, but apparently not with Paul Heyman. Kind of just said, regardless of what happens, he wins. And then later on in the night, we would see Punk come out to the ring with a kendo stick, assuming that it was the same kendo stick that Paul was beating on him with, and he guaranteed I was going to get his hands on him. And he said that Paul Heyman said that Punk broke his heart, but at Night of Champions, he'll break his face.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of glad that we're seeing more of this stronger storyline, I suppose. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that we're not going to be sort of wasting this segment on another Curtis Axel Punk match, right?
Yeah.
And now as for Triple H going up sort of against Paul Heyman, I think I think that was actually kind of a good thing because a lot of people like Paul Heyman.
Yep.
And I think this is effective with the Triple H corporate heel because if he goes against Paul Heyman, well, hey, they can get the crowd riled up and go against Triple H now. So, as if they haven't done so already. Mm-hmm. So I think this could be effective. I mean, let's face it, this is the internet. This is the, at this age where we all kind of recognize that wrestling is fake, that this is just an entertainment company. But they really they're working hard to make us hate them. And if we're not hating them already, then I don't know. Cause I'm really in tune with the storyline currently.
Yeah. And a few minor notes that happened, during the show. We would see Dolph Ziggler placed into another match with Ryback, pretty much just to beat him down cause of Dolph Ziggler being against what the McMahons were doing. And originally we didn't know who he's gonna face. We would see Dean Ambrose just attack him from behind, and we're assuming that it was him. Then we hear Ryback's music, and Ryback was actually his opponent's, and he was already beaten down to begin with, but Ryback just really put it on him and ended it pretty quickly.
Well, hopefully this is a foreshadow of things to come. Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler are two of WWE's biggest salespeople. And when I mean by salespeople, I mean look how they could take hits. If these, and they would be the perfect opponents, the perfect way to start a feud, especially an Ambrose solo feud as well. And, hopefully with these forces collide, we could see more of that. But I'll obviously talk more about it during the Smackdown segment.
Yep. And going off from what happened last week, we all remember the big, bombshell that was dropped by AJ. And there ended up being a triple threat match to decide a number one contender. It was between Brie Bella, Naomi, and Natalya. And the match didn't really have any sort of an ending because AJ ended up coming out, breaking up the match, and it kind of turned into a 5-on-1 beatdown. Everybody was beaten down on her. And we would end up finding later that at Night of Champions it will be a fatal four-way between Brie, Naomi, Natalya, and AJ for the Divas Championship.
A four-way, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Fatal four-way.
All
so
right.
The championship's advantage is gone. She doesn't have to be pinned to lose her title, so that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yep. Oh, hey, that actually sounds like it might be a good Divas match, pay-per-view quality.
Mm-hmm. A lot of, obviously we know how good Natalya is in the ring. I've been boasting about how great Naomi is. I'm not really too big on either the Bellas in the ring, but, I guess they had to put a fourth in.
The Chihuahuas?
Sure, yeah.
After last week's constant yelling and everything.
Oh,
promo.
yes. All right.
I still can't get them out of my head whenever we talk about the Bellas. That's the first thing that pops up.
Yep. All right.
The following segment is everything you need to know about NXT.
And we're going to start out by talking about the match between Rick Victor and Corey Graves. We saw Rick come out with Corey's tag team title that was taken from him last week. We would see Corey Graves have his ribs taped, which is I don't know if you remember back in the day, but DDP had his ribs taped for a while and had his full stomach tape, but he only had a single tape. I know this is just randomly just throwing it in there, but it's for me anyway. But
that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's good for business. And we would see Corey get the victory over Rick, and Corey ends up getting back his tag team title and really building up more in this what's going to be a future tag team title match.
I'm really liking the way that these, between Corey Graves and Rick Victor. What I like is that with NXT, have you noticed that they're all sort of grungy, sort of, very gritty looking, compared to the main roster where everyone's sort of clean, all freshly waxed. Everyone, that they're all models over there. But with NXT, I'm starting to notice that they're putting more of a focus on this whole gritty, grungy look to them. But that's all I have to say. But yeah, it was a good match, and I'm actually slowly starting to understand all the storylines now with NXT now that I'm in my third episode. So maybe give or take next or the week after, I'll actually have real comments to say.
That's a good thing.
But other than that, though, I really love the Ric Flair woo chants during the match. People have been doing that, especially during live events. You don't hear them too much on TV, but I noticed them.
All right.
Not you, Dan, but I'm talking about general.
Oh, well, thank you on that. Then we'll move into the main event where it had Sami Zayn going up against Jack Swagger. Another very solid match. Sami had the full support of the crowd. Match was, like I said, it was good. The crowd was really into it. They were chanting, "This is awesome" at one point. We would then see Bo Dallas come down to the ring and end up distracting Sami. Swagger ends up getting the Patriot lock in the middle ring. Sami taps. And it kind of seems like they're really building towards this Sami Zayn versus Bo Dallas feud.
So do you think that this is going to be one step closer for Sami Zayn to getting the belt?
I don't know about getting the belts.
Or at least getting the shot.
Yeah, I think he will. Maybe within, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks or so, just to continue building on where they're at.
Well, hopefully the real Americans expose him for being El Generico, so this way when it's main roster time, or at least some sort of reference. Now, I wonder why they're not giving him the El Generico gimmick, or at least something similar to that, whereas TNA had Rubik's, from Jigsaw to Rubik's.
Yep.
Now, I think maybe it's just a test, Sami Zayn, in terms of where he goes as a non-El Generico character. And I mean, is that working for you at least?
Oh yeah.
It seems to be working for me, and it seems to be working with the crowd as well.
Yeah, because you can actually, I don't remember him really talking as much when he was El Generico. If I remember correctly, I think he was just really, really, bad Spanish, I think.
Yeah.
And he never really, I think he's really shining as this guy on the mic, and he's really, he bounces off from sentence to sentence. It really flows really well.
Following segment is everything you need to know about Impact Wrestling.
And we would see the star of the show. Once again, we see Aces and A's come out. Oh.
Hulk Hogan or Bully Ray?
Bully Ray would end up coming out and saying, reassuring everybody that Aces is in total control. that without them he'd be with nothing. Pretty much a 180 from how he was last week. He goes around hugging everybody. Even a very reluctant Mr. Anderson. And we would see later on in the night where Mr. Anderson didn't exactly get the job done, so to speak, in the TNA version of the Royal Rumble, where he ended up getting, I think he was one of the first to be eliminated, if I can remember correctly. But after that, Bully Ray would take on Sting, and they kind of answered, because you remember how I just kind of went off on this when he got the whole title match or whatever, and they said he wasn't actually getting a title match, it was just another match. And originally, Hogan would end up banning Tito Ortiz from ringside and turn it into a no DQ match. We would see a Bully tear apart the ring again, just like he did when the last time he faced Sting. We would see both Aces and Eights and Main Event Mafia get involved. But it would turn back into a one-on-one match just for a little bit, just to see Anderson act like he's going to help out Bully Ray with the hammer, but doesn't. He would then come into the ring after the match was over and reveal that Bully will be facing him next week for the TNA Heavyweight Championship. And I gotta say, it was really nice to hear him back on the mic again.
It was not only just nice to hear him back on the mic, but it was even nicer to hear him call his own name. That's just one of the few wrestlers where I guess we all just don't mind that he refers to himself in the third person.
Good. It's probably just because the way he delivers and how strong of a presence he is on the mic.
And how about the heavy metal growls at the end too?
Yeah, that was, I guess that he just put on his game face there and he was just ready to beat him up right there.
Yep, well hey, I hope this, Bully Ray reminded everyone of the stipulations from Slammiversary, Dan, which you called out on last week also, and I agreed with you. It's like, how are they gonna answer this? Maybe they're listening to the show.
Then damn well they should.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? In fact, should tweet Dixie Carter, hey, or at least whoever runs her Twitter page.
It's like, hey, ask this guy, did you listen to Intelligent Wrestling Talk?
Yeah, I think everyone should go on Twitter and ask her if she listens to Intelligent Wrestling Talk, and she'd be like, well, I think it's a fine program.
That would be fantastic. Even if she was lying, even if you didn't actually watch it, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Anyway, I spoke a little bit about the TNA's version of Royal Rumble, and this was quite a match. We saw it's about all the participants in the Bound for Glory series. What? The participants?
The participants?
What are you hearing?
Well, we'll replay it later and I'll show you what I mean, but keep going, Dan.
Okay. I'm not sure how I'll recover from that. Alright. All the competitors in the match, in the Bound for Glory series, we would see the winner get 20 points. And the winner of that match was AJ, catapulting him in the first place, knocking off Jeff Hardy from that spot.
That was a surprise move, I thought. I didn't expect Jeff Hardy to be eliminated so quickly. Well, not even quickly, it was just more like, just like that.
Yeah, I don't even think he was the final four.
No, he wasn't.
And later on, we would see AJ end up picking Austin Aries next week, which means Bobby Roode will take on Magnus. So.
Yep. Oh, that should be good. I think that's what people kind of want to see at this point is more of these superstars, I guess, sort of facing each other, and it'd be good to see more Magnus action as well. The question is, who's gonna win next week? I think it's obviously going to be one face, one heel. I think.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be AJ versus Bobby Roode. I mean,
yep.
I don't really see Austin winning just because he already defeated AJ.
Yeah.
And he brought that up before he picked him, so I think it's gonna end up being AJ versus Roode, and if Bully keeps the title, which we're assuming he is, I think AJ is gonna come out on top on this one.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. I mean, I guess it's assumed that he's got his contract renewed of some sort. Maybe this is his push. We don't know. We don't know what's backstage. We don't read dirt sheets, but all we know is that there's supposed to be some sort of a contract issue, and that's it.
And a few of the lesser things that happened. We finally see the return of Chris Sabin. Finally, after losing his title, this is his first match going up against Nux. And we would see this match end with DQ after Sabin hit Nux with the hammer after it being introduced into the match by Bully. And he really went off here to the point where it kind of escalated in going, off stage. I mean, in the back area with Velvet Sky, and he was going crazy out there too.
Yeah, that was pretty random. I mean, 1 month you're the world heavyweight champion, you lose your next match. Well, I mean, you obviously Bully wins, but I'm obviously this match now, against Nux. Yeah, that was quite strange. I don't know if this is a heel turn. I don't know what this is. Breakdown, but I guess I guess someone's having the burial shovel already ready.
Yeah, it really seems that way.
This guy's the future, bro. Dude.
Seeing your future endeavors.
Yeah, that's what they meant.
And one last thing that would happen, we would see Mickie James come out and deliver a promo on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, saying how she's one day gonna be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. And we would see ODB come out, they would kind of jaw at each other. And eventually, ODB got Mickie James's shirt, and Mickie James just ran away.
Let the pigeons loose! Ah! That's the good old King would say, as I poorly imitate.
You mean Taz?
What? Oh, what? Let the pigeons loose?
Let the pigeons loose. That's Taz.
Yeah, well, what the King said it too, right?
Jerry said, "Puppies!"
Oh, alright. Alright, whatever.
Yeah.
But, at least the Knockouts feud are, at least, I guess we're gonna see a feud between them two, right? Then what about Gail Kim?
It seems like she's out of the picture for now.
Yeah, cause it was just interesting cause, Gail Kim's usually the, main knockout feud type, I guess. Her, Taryn Terrell, her and ODB. I guess now we get to see Mickie James and ODB go at it. And hey, whatever. That's cool. In fact, Mickie James defending, Miley Cyrus with the whole twerking.
Do we really have to mention that?
No, we don't. We can move on.
Fantastic.
Alright.
Following segment is everything you need to know about SmackDown.
We would see the show open up with Vicky, Brad, and Triple H standing in the ring, having this similar setup with the Shield being guard, all the wrestlers by the entranceway, and Triple H ended up pulling a line that I didn't see coming, that Cody Rhodes fired Cody Rhodes. Kind of like how Vince McMahon said Brett screwed Brett. And he would eventually create his own open forum, I guess. And guys like Kofi and RVD spoke up. Triple H kind of made fun of RVD, saying, "Oh, I've been waiting all this time for for RVD to call me dude." And then we would end up seeing, RVD would end up being placed in a match with Randy Orton. And we would also hear that Bryan was going to have his choice on taking on any member of the Shield. And we would hear later on that he didn't really care who he was going to face, so he just let them pick whoever that he wanted to face. And in that match, we would end up seeing him going up against Seth Rollins. And even though the Shield kept on getting involved, Bryan found a way to win. Gave a knee to Seth Rollins, kind of like how he originally won the title, walked out the winner. Though he was celebrating, we would see once again Orton get the upper hand and attack him from behind, ending the show.
Yeah, it seems that we're going to be ending every SmackDown or Raw with just beating up Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I mean, I know it seems like it's getting old to some people, but I think within the next couple of weeks, I think we're going to see maybe the tide turn a little bit, because obviously, they've been doing this, week after week, Raw, the Smackdown. This is just going to make this feud much better, because once he finally, starts getting clean victories and getting out of there and, leaving the crowd with a huge high, those few moments are not going to happen often, but when they do, they're going to be much more effective, because all the times he's getting attacked from behind.
I agree.
All right. And we spoke a little bit about this with Raw, but we have, we had a return match between Dolph Ziggler and Ryback, Dean Ambrose at ringside, and the match was decent, but we would see Dean Ambrose baiting Dolph. Ryback would end up capitalizing and taking the win. Could this
capitalize? Yeah.
Could this set up maybe a big feud with Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler?
I hope so. I mean, judging from this, I mean, this is like such a fun feud to watch, because, I even asked it too a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Hey, can we get some of the biggest salesmen from WWE to go against each other? And that's what we're getting. Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler.
Mm-hmm. And another match we would see that night, I mentioned that Kofi was spoke out against Triple H, and he ended up getting a match with Curtis Axel. And I guess we kind of all assumed that Curtis Axel was going to take this match, but not so much. Kofi ends up winning this match with a SOS, and I gotta ask, with the match coming up against CM Punk, why would Curtis lose any match from now until then?
Well, Dan, I'll tell you why. In fact, these are written by the hippopotamuses of the WWE writers.
Maybe.
It doesn't always have to make sense. Sometimes they need to go against logic. They need to go what's good for business, and apparently Kofi Kingston is good for business.
Yeah, I think they need to start eating some custard pie so they can start to feel better.
Exactly. But, alright, well, let's move on, because I can't really, you know what? No, let's not move on, because I really want to talk about the tedious, the boringness of this match. I mean, was Curtis Axel going purposely slower than usual? He's supposed to be a lot quicker than this. Just seeing him, and I hate when they do this sometimes in wrestling. Rob Terry has the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
When a big guy, and it's not even that Curtis Axel is that big, but he's, kind of big enough, he should be fast and strong.
Yeah.
Slowly just picking up Kofi Kingston, but, there's a suplex about, wait. I'm gonna be ominously slow. And we've seen that between the Sheamus and Orton match at Izod Center, and that's exactly what got the crowd riled. That's what got us to rile up. And same to Fandango, Dan, because that match was so boring, and I thought this one was too. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying. I don't know. I'm off the Sami Zayn swagger high. Maybe that's it.
No, I totally agree with you. It really did feel really slow, and it was almost felt like a relief to see when the match actually ended, but it kind of overshadowed a bit just by the result, considering, why the hell is Curtis Axel losing any matches whatsoever. Alright, and the last thing we should talk about, like I said with Kofi, and RVD ended up getting in some words against Triple H. He got put in a match with Orton. It was a pretty great match throughout, and we would see Orton take it, but afterwards we'd see Del Rio get his hands on RVD.
Well, absolutely. I thought it was a great first match, and did you notice Randy Orton coming out to the crowd saying, "Hey, move, excuse me"?
Yeah.
That was pretty humorous.
Yeah, man. Alright, that will do it for the week that was wrestling.
Oh wait, no, that's not just it, because we got WWE Main Event that I just quickly want to go ahead and slide right in and interrupt the flow of pace that we're doing.
Yeah, we were supposed to do this after Raw, but I guess we kind of both forgot about it, so.
That's okay, Dan. I forgive you.
And since I didn't check out Main Events, I'll leave this one up to you.
Yeah, well, I'm not really going to get into the Sandow or our truth moment, but what I do want to get into is the first match, which was Fandango against Justin Gabriel. Justin Gabriel, who I rarely see on TV. Both of these guys going at it. That was a real wrestling match. And I always say that Justin Gabriel is this underrated wrestler that's currently on the roster that's barely used. And sometimes I think, you know what? Maybe he is boring. Maybe he doesn't have what it really takes to shine out. But I look at this match and automatically all those assumptions were just drowned away again, because I do like Justin Gabriel, and to see him wrestle with all those kicks and flips and some of the high flying abilities mixed with Fandango's quick abilities as well, it was a great match. They're both great workers, and why are we not seeing enough Justin Gabriel? So the real main event, which would be Primetime Players versus the Wyatt family. Well, there's not much to say about it, but it was really great to see Titus O'Neil sort of working against Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, all work really well together. Darren Young actually, well, they both PTP lost. So Bray Wyatt comes in the ring, and it's all ended with giving him this finisher, kissing Darren Young on the forehead or the afro, I guess, and just sort of that came out so bad. But anyway, the point is that it was a really interesting main event, and I obviously don't really watch main event, but this one was definitely worth checking out.
Cool. Yeah. All right, now that will do it for the week that was wrestling. It's time to get into some news.
Following segment is wrestling news.
What do you got for this week?
Actually, this is a little pretty big for TNA fans. Zema Ion will be returning to TNA. He'll be returning back to live events this weekend at Delaware and Pennsylvania.
Interesting.
Yeah, and TNA does cancel a live event in Kansas City, Missouri. Not much really for reasoning behind that.
Okay.
Another news is that Kurt Angle is released from rehab. He has gained back his 3 eyes. Eric Bischoff will now be working with a Backstreet Boy, Nick Carter. Nick Carter will be executive producing alongside Eric Bischoff for Nick Carter's, I guess, reality show. So if you're interested in that, Dan.
I am not, but thank you for bringing that out there.
Oh, hey. Alright, so, now one last bit of TNA information. Hulk Hogan was recently interviewed, and Dan, you're never gonna believe this.
What's
so
that?
They asked him, which TNA young talent has the most star potential? Mm-hmm. And here's the quote from Hulk Hogan. I'm pretty much torn between Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles. They both got it, brother. Oh, you didn't say brother, but you get the idea. Hulk Hogan goes on to say that they both have the it factor. It's like a toss-up because they both shine and outshine each other at certain times. I think either one of these guys, Jeff Hardy or AJ Styles, has the potential to go on to greatness.
I don't know. They kind of already feel like stars to me because they've already been champions in TNA. I mean, especially with Hardy. I mean, he's won major belts in WWE as well. I mean, that's not really too much of a stretch.
Well, come on, Dan. This is TNA. This is Hulk Hogan talking.
I suppose.
That's no, you're right. I think it's a little ridiculous. And if you look at the comments on here or other articles, even people are calling them out on it. Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles, they're both 36. I mean, that's young, but wrestling-wise, that's not very young. They've accomplished a lot more than a lot of other wrestlers. What Hulk Hogan should have said was that he should have pointed out at the X Division, he should have even mentioned Zema Ion for all I care. And I don't know. But you know, the last time he calls anyone the future of TNA usually gets squashed after a month or so. I mean, look at TJ Perkins. Where is he? They need to bring back that X Division.
Yeah, and it also, we spoke about this earlier, but it also seems like they were doing that with Sabin.
You're exactly right. After that month of, or after his post-injury push, there we go. He's acting crazy.
And it's funny too, because during the whole thing, during the whole on-air thing, he was fully behind him, you know, being champion and taking the belt from Bully Ray, and then this happens, and it's really hard to explain.
Yeah, it is. Well, I guess just as one last bit of news, I guess, well, why don't we go ahead and talk about the good news for Titus O'Neil. Now he is dating a reality show, actress, or, well, actually, are they really actresses considering it's reality shows?
Well, I think some of them are partially scripted, but we're not going to get into reality TV here.
That is true. Well, he is dating Omarosa Manigault. Omarosa Manigault. These names.
Well, whatever her name is, good for him.
Exactly. And you know, during the interview, he actually a bunch of funny quotes over here. He's saying, you know, hey, with just a couple of more business classes, he'll be right on her level, I guess. That's what he said. So yeah, good for them. And, yeah, great to see, I guess, the PTP not only getting their push, but not to mention getting some personal, rewards out of this as well.
All right. And, I guess that'll about do it for news this week, Anthony. Yeah, anything else, or is that,
other than, supposedly, if you want one dirt sheet article that kind of caught my attention, which I quickly disbanded because I'm not really sure. Mark Henry may be cleared from his injury.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's if. And, Randy Orton's supposedly dating, a diva, which I don't think is true. They're circulating that photo with them too, and I discredit it. It looks like a regular photo to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go too much more into that.
Yeah, they, you know, and once again, these are their personal lives, and you know, it's whatever.
Yeah. All right.
The following segment is Know Your Host.
All right, let's get into a segment that we like to call Know Your Host. That's where we tell you a little bit about ourselves as it pertains to wrestling. And for this week's topic, I decided to go with favorite heel of all time. Now, Anthony, you can pick any wrestler, manager, or commentator, GM, whatever, from any era, any year, anytime.
Well, thank you, Dan. I think that's a privilege. So I'd like to answer with someone who's really hated, not just in the ring, not just outside through the internet wrestling community, because this guy is hated by everyone. Ryback. He is the perfect heel. Because not only, cause the trick is not to just get the people in the audience to boo you. You have to get the internet crowd to hate you as well. Cause the internet crowds always favor the heels. And let's face it, there is a bit of bias cause the heels get to do more stuff. And they get to say more stuff too. And they got and they're also made out to make the good guys, the faces look good as well. And we've seen Dolph Ziggler looking good against Ryback. I mean, some ways, even though, you know, maybe loss.
Yeah.
But, I'm just gonna have to go with Ryback on this one. I think he's the perfect all-around heel.
Alright, and I think mine, I guess maybe a little more predictable, but I'm gonna go with, late 90s, Vince McMahon, when he was having that big feud with Stone Cold. I always enjoyed, when I was younger, seeing, Vince McMahon get beat up.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, and, I mean, obviously, I mean, this is the boss, you know, and not every day do you see someone able to go up against, someone's boss and, you know, not have anything bad happen to you for it. Which I always thought was cool to watch. And it was also easy to hate Vince because, like I said, he's the boss, so.
The following segment is Know Your Wrestler.
And Anthony, who do you got for us this week?
Well, this one's an interesting one. I always say they're interesting because I like to think that I'm selecting the most interesting ones.
Yeah.
Alright, so this one is Gus Sonnenberg. He was born on March 6th, 1898. And, believe it or not, his height was 5'8". So that just comes to show you that, height doesn't always matter in wrestling. So basically there was a period during wrestling when I mentioned that they would usually exploit the circus stars, circus actors, performers, entertainers, and whatnot, because they're just naturally a little bit more athletic. But now, sort of around 1920s, 30s, so on, they began to use football players or enthusiasts of football players. What this guy has done was innovated the flying tackle. The flying tackle, self-explanatory. We see it on TV every day. Because basically they had periods in wrestling where it was just suplexes, slow moving, nobody's punching each other really. But what this guy did so different was that for his flying tackle, he sort of made it into what we see with Roman Reigns or Edge using the spear. So they would use this to elicit audience reactions. Now, it never failed. That was his finishing move, and that was the move that attracted a lot of audiences. In fact, his promotional adversaries, believe it or not, he was actually attacked by a real life wrestler from a different promotion. We're talking about gang wrestlings here. So, basically, during World War II, eventually when that came, he served as a physical training instructor. And he eventually would become ill in December 1943. He died of leukemia that following September. But I think it's great that not only we're talking about the history here, but we're also learning about the man who had helped innovate the flying tackle or the spear.
All right.
Or at least variations of both, because it's not limited to just one move.
All right. Very informative as always, Anthony. Always love to hear about the history behind wrestling and where things really got started.
Following segment is the Q&A.
All right, so let's move into our questions and answers segments, where every week, about 24 to 12 hours before we record this, I post a little something in our Facebook group, and we should get a pretty big response to where people will ask us questions, whether they're like legit or hypothetical. And let's get started off with a very hypothetical one from Jade, who says, Anthony has been placed in a triple threat hardcore match with Mick Foley and Tommy Dreamer.
That's it.
What weapons does Anthony need to be hit with for the match to be considered a true classic hardcore match? Wow, he's getting on you early. Alright, let's see. Kendo sticks, barbed wire, street signs, trash cans. Let's throw the kitchen sink at you. Maybe even get a textbook or two. One of those really heavy, thick dictionary-like textbooks.
Oh yeah, bring more in. So let me tell you something, Jade. You can go ahead and sit there behind your keyboard telling me all these hypotheticals, I'm going to be in these matches and so on. Well, you know what? You're lucky you live across state borders, because I will find you and I will have a hardcore match with you.
Wow. It seems like it's getting pretty heated between you two.
Well, you know what, Dan? I'm just utterly sick and tired of this guy sitting behind his keyboard and saying all this hypothetical crap. Well, you know what, Jade? How about me and you, huh? How about me and you?
Sounds very interesting. And he would have a second question. Another hypothetical one where we are forced to choose one of these events happening at WrestleMania 30. You must choose at least one, either option one, a Divas match would take place in the main event, the entire show would take place in an infamous six-sided ring, or John Cena ends The Undertaker's undefeated streak.
Well, we can't choose option 3, Dan.
No.
Come on, Jade. Why would you make that an option? That's evil.
Yeah, I think he's still trying to get a little jab at you.
I guess so.
But
Jade.
What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go, if you've been listening, you'll understand where this is coming from, but we're gonna go with the Divas match, and cause we had a question, I believe a couple of weeks ago or so, and we would put, AJ versus Paige for the Divas Championship, and I think that'd be fantastic match, cause they're both fantastic wrestlers.
Yeah, I agree. I think that will definitely work.
Alright.
No question about it.
And next comes from Shaun. He says, or asks rather, which wrestler would get a musical made of his or her life?
I'm gonna go with, Chris Jericho. I think we can get a rock musical out of it, and I don't think there's ever, it could be like a Rock of Ages sort of thing, you know, focus on his 80s, 90s path. We don't need to know about Dancing with the Stars, but, hey, I mean, Fozzy or whatever, I think that'll definitely work. Rock operas, they don't, I don't think they're unsuccessful, performances.
Agreed fully there.
Yeah.
Alright, our next question comes from Hector. He asks us, Cena versus Taker at WrestleMania 30. Would this be good or not?
That would be bad for business.
Agreed. Next, our first one from Michelle. I see a couple from her this week. If only for 1 week, Dan, you could swap Tony for a wrestling co-host.
God,
who
not
would
you
it be?
too, Michelle.
But she also asked you the same question.
Oh,
and
right.
for her, she would pick Colt Cabana, and I completely agree. Just cause, of what he does on, I don't know, Anthony, if you've seen on YouTube, he actually comments on this, thing called $5 Wrestling, which is on, I believe that's on, High Spots' YouTube page. He's a lot of fun to listen to, and of course, obviously, with his podcast.
Oh, let's see. Who would I do? I don't really know. I listened to, recently, I've listened to, Jesse Ventura interviews before, and I would love to have a conversation with him. Love to have a conversation with, Roddy Piper. He was on, I think he was on Alex Jones the other day, and I thought he had some really interesting stuff to say, but I think as far as you know what it is? I need I would love, Colt Cabana sounds like a great choice, but I feel like I'm not serious either, and I would need a serious person to be a host, and I would probably, I think I would pick Michael Cole. I think he's got that voice as well, where it's sort of a voice of reason, sort of. Mm-hmm. That voice, where, I don't know, that's a hard question, Michelle. I'm afraid I can't answer it. Maybe Michael Cole, just so I could say funny things that make fun of him.
Yeah, and of course, I would never replace you, right? You always got a spot.
Oh, yeah. No, of course. Same. I mean, you're really in charge, but, the feeling is mutual, Dan, sort of.
Yeah, sort of here too.
It depends on who buys us out for the highest bidder.
This is true. Alright, our next question comes from Silva, and she says, let's say that Vince McMahon loses his mind and actually does something rather interesting and agrees with Dixie to hold some sort of cross-brand thing. The situation in mind is that Vince will allow 5 TNA guys to be in the next year's Royal Rumble, which 5 guys go across, try to avoid the obvious choices, and make it interesting, or else, wink.
Alright, well, I'll tell you what. We're obviously going to see Joseph Park come up first. Mm-hmm. And then after he gets eliminated, we're going to go ahead and probably see the It Factor, Bobby Roode, come in there, try to knock some people out. Mm-hmm. And then we will see Abyss come out. And Abyss will try to knock some people out too. And maybe him and Rude get eliminated. Who knows?
So does, Abyss go after Joseph Park? Does he go after his brother?
Well, no, cause remember, Joseph Park was eliminated, so they obviously can't fight each other, Dan.
Alright. That makes sense. I got you.
Yeah. And we'll definitely see, Austin Aries come out next. And of course, last but not least, AJ Styles.
Yeah, I mean, we know that he's another obvious one.
We're kind of on the AJ Styles high, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we saw how we did on Thursday in this type of match, and I think he would flourish in the Royal Rumble.
Yep.
Alright, our next one, once again from Michelle. She asked, are 3MB the new Mean Street Posse?
Well, first they'd have to have some dignity.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Mean Street Posse, I believe they won a few matches. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure they did, and they also had, Shane in their corner, a McMahon. So, I mean, I see the similarities, but I'm gonna have to say no on that one. Mm-hmm. Alright, our next question from Shaun. This is a really good one, actually. Who would you rather meet? Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, Eddie Guerrero, Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, Chris Benoit, Umaga, or Owen Hart? And yes, I do mean if they are alive. Well, that would be kind of awkward if they were dead because we wouldn't really be able to meet them. But, yeah, who do you got?
Well, let's see. I'm gonna go with Owen Hart. Close second is Eddie Guerrero, but I would definitely go with Owen Hart. I think he was an accomplished wrestler from, and Blaze Blue, I remember that gimmick before his death. Who knows where he would have went had he still been alive. I mean, he was pretty big and over with the crowd. Even for, being Bret Hart's, brother. And it's not like, and I never felt when I look back that he was shadowed. Nope. That he was in his brother's shadow or anything like that. And plus he always looked more of like the friendlier one out of the two as well. Yeah. But, hey, but what do I know? I mean, I'm sure Andre the Giant would have been a great conversationalist as well. But for me, I would just go with, Owen Hart.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think he just probably would have had a lot of great stories to tell from, how he grew up and how he trained over in the hard dungeon with his father and his brother.
I know that. In fact, if you look up the Howard Stern interview for Bret Hart, he goes into that too.
Yep. All right. Another one, the third one from Michelle. She asked, do you think women in wrestling are set to fail from the start? Not only are they pretty much forced to get cosmetic surgery, breast implants, lipo, etc., but when they take bumps, the implants easily pop, as seen many times, which of course leaks silicone into the body. Is appearance really that important that it's worth risking their health for?
Man, after this vivid description, I guess not anymore, right?
No, certainly not.
No, and look at the divas. I mean, obviously, they're hot. But, are they set to fail from the start? It really depends on how the company handles them. I mean, we've seen indie wrestling promotions where women wrestling are accomplished champions. Gladiators, in fact. But what companies do now, WWE most infamously, is that they Hollywoodize them. They starve them. They make them go through, not even make them, but they pressure them into these procedures. Yep. And these women feel pressured, so they gotta go through these plastic surgeries, wear what AJ calls the $4,000 heels. And I could go on, but it's the same old song and dance. But hey, we're all talking about the issue anyway online. I mean, there's a lot more people pointing it out. Maybe there's maybe something could be done about this. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad because they really put much more of an emphasis on beauty rather than actual talent, and it's really rare to find a woman who really possesses both. And I think in their future, someone like Paige, well, obviously she's beautiful and she obviously is a great wrestler in the ring. I think that could certainly change things.
Yeah, definitely. And look at Taryn Terrell. I mean, she's super hot. She's my favorite knockout and, one of my favorites. But she can definitely work a match. I mean, that ladder match against Gail Kim recently. Man, unforgettable.
Agreed. And, our next one, another one, the second one from Silva. She says, if you were in Jerry Lawler's boots, you should probably get out of them before he sees. Let's say if you had his health issue, would you still want to wrestle knowing that your body is telling you very loudly not to?
Well, first of all, I got 2 words for that. Hell no. But in King's defense, wrestling was the foundation of his life. So I could see if he's tempted to wrestle again, because let's face it, that's the world that he knows. The world that we know, you and I, Dan, video games, movies, internet, looking forward to maybe the next Watch Dogs game. Maybe we're looking forward to the next Batman Superman movie. Maybe we're constantly looking online for stuff. The King, old school guy, knows wrestling. So it's very hard to even relate, but me personally, I would say no, but especially the food that the King eats. But, yeah, I would go with no.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like he doesn't get paid very well. I mean, if he was, I know, a guy like Ric Flair, he's had his troubles over the years with money and all that. But, I mean, over time, obviously your body is going to deteriorate, and then especially from all the bumps that these guys take, I mean, I agree, it's certainly not worth the risk at all.
No. I mean, what is this? Gonna be like the ending of, The Wrestler, with Mickey Rourke?
Yeah. Alright, and it looks like our last one from Michelle. She asked, if you could swap 2 superstar gimmicks, who would they be and why? Mine would be Fandango and Undertaker, as Johnny would look rather dishy in Taker's jacket. But don't limit your... What's that?
Is dishy supposed to be dashing?
Maybe. I don't know. But, she says don't limit yourself to just WWE, anyone from anywhere.
See, this is a hard one.
Yeah, well, we certainly spent a lot of time on this pre-show.
Yeah. What did we agree on? Because we had a really good one. I don't remember off the top of my head now.
We end up, agreeing on, Justin Gabriel switching with Kofi. I think it's,
right.
Yeah, it's definitely time to see Kofi, step down because we obviously seen him in the spot, many times, and I think, Justin could, flourish in his position. And
this would be a chance to breathe some new life into this too. I mean, we can see, they both have demonstrated, athletic abilities, right? Mm-hmm. And with Justin Gabriel is that, it's funny because they'll talk about Kofi Kingston, he has this Jamaican gimmick even though he is not really from Jamaica. Mm-hmm. Yet with Justin Gabriel, they have to remind you every time that he's from Africa. Yep. What? Yeah. All right. Our next one comes from Jordan, and he says, or asks rather, if there was any wrestler that you could bring into the main WWE and TNA roster, who would you choose? Note, it can't be someone who is already in contract with WWE or TNA's developmental promotions. All right. Well, I think for TNA, I would have gone with Adam O'Reiner, known as Big O, with Zack Ryder's True Long Island Story. Long Island. What was it? It was a Long Island Story, right?
The true Long Island Story.
All right. Well, I was almost right. So anyway, with Adam O'Reiner though, is that he was a good wrestler. He's also very passionate about it. He's with, plus not to mention his association with Zack Ryder would have definitely made it a huge impact. No pun intended. I don't know why they did not select him after his gut check tryout with TNA, but I think he would have made a fine addition. He would have sort of been like the Brotista of TNA.
I see what you did there, and I like it.
Thank you.
And like I said, I'll agree with the TNA part with WWE. Colt Cabana all the way. I mean, he works in just about any sort of fashion that you want to have him in. Like whether you want to have him in an announcer role, he can do that. Whether you want him in the ring, I mean, for those of you who don't know, I mean, you've seen Santino in the ring, and he tries to bring a little bit of comedy out. Colt is kind of Santino times 10 on the comedy route. He's always a lot of fun to watch in the ring, and he can, and he wrestles under, different gimmicks as well. So, I mean, it's not really hard for him to get any of that over. All right. And our last question for this week comes from Andy, and he asks, what if Vince was able to buy out TNA, much like he did with WCW? Which of those wrestlers would have the most success, and which ones do you feel or would you like to see feud with ones on the current WWE roster?
I think what would happen if Vince buys out TNA is that it would be run sort of the way NXT is. As in, we keep it the same, change the live arena setup, get rid of that model walkway ramp, give it the 6-sided ring, so this way it has its own individuality. Notice how NXT has its own sort of thing where it's not a big arena or anything like that. But yet it's comfortable to watch because it has more elegance to it. That's what TNA needs. And what will happen, right, when he also buys them out, is that we're going to see some phase outs. So we're probably not going to see much of, probably not much of Hogan.
Probably not.
We'll probably see some of the bigger guys get a push before, but we'll probably see Rob Terry get a better push before, some of these other guys, because Vince likes the big guys. But, Yeah, I don't know. Now, as far as feuds though, hey, maybe the way the Real Americans are having their feud with Sami Zayn, we could probably see a cross feud eventually too. Hey, CM Punk and Austin Aries, come on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that match alone would fill an arena.
Yeah, absolutely. Iron Man match, right, Dan?
Yeah, 60-minute Iron Man match at WrestleMania 30. Let's see it. All right. Like I said, that is the last question for this week. I'd like to thank everybody for sending in all their questions, especially the multiples from Shaun and Michelle and Silva. They always like to post or ask us questions 3 or 4 different times. So
typically with me being, wrestled against super hardcore wrestlers.
Yeah, well, that one came from your arch nemesis.
It did. Yeah.
All right, and we'll get into some plugs before we head out of here. I've been talking about this a lot for over the past couple of weeks. A brand new top 10 is finally up and running. Our own Shaun Spex and Michelle Turner, I put a lot of hard work into it. It really shows that there's a lot of information and that I didn't even know of. And I think, there's always arguments with any top 10, but we obviously did a pretty good job with it. And, once again, thank Shaun and Michelle for, bringing that idea and working on it. And, it really shows just how much work they put into it.
That's true. And what I like about this video is that, first of all, God bless Shaun for his voice, because I think, if we did this top 10, it wouldn't feel right, because, we're not in the UK or anything like that.
Yeah.
And what Shaun does is that not only does he just go off, about the wrestlers, but he'll give you some trivia, some of the history. So I'm not going to spoil it, but Drew McIntyre, there's a lot of details that the average fan probably wouldn't know about. And he'll go on to mention some more wrestlers as well. So I definitely, it was definitely an educational video. That is what Intelligent Wrestling Talk is all about, and Shaun has definitely helped guide that, especially with the UK wrestlers. And hey, maybe we can get some more exposures, in terms of maybe getting some lesser known British wrestlers into the mix as well, because there were some in there that I really wasn't too familiar with, that I was happy to see. So
yeah, and for future top 10s, I'm not sure how often, but we were going to do it, but we always love to have as many votes as possible. If you're not a member and you're listening to this, go head on over to Facebook. The link will be in the description below. We also have weekly and even daily wrestling discussion, 4 or 5 different topics going on at once. And before every show, I always post a thread, whether it be for Raw, Impact, Smackdown, or any pay-per-views, where everybody just gets together and talk what's going on in the show, and we usually get a pretty good turnout every week.
Yeah, and even if you join the group, we even talk about the shows. Maybe there's something you don't like that's currently going on in wrestling. Well, hey, constructively criticize what's going on in wrestling, and hey, maybe we'll agree with you. And maybe even though we agree with you, maybe we'll challenge you. We're not the Freemasons or anything, but, this is Intelligent Wrestling Talk, and, unlike pages where maybe your comment gets ignored by, virtually a crowd of, at least here you'll get the attention. People will read what you say, and we'll all talk about it. That's what we do.
And it's always a lot of fun, because we always like to bounce off each other. We always have a lot of fun, especially in the Raw chats. Those are probably our most active. We get anywhere from 400 to 500 comments from multiple people in there. It's always a lot of fun.
Definitely.
So also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this page. Please leave a little comment in the comment section below. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, what were your thoughts on what happened in the week of wrestling, and just anything that you feel would like to contribute to the show. So that will pretty much do it for this week. Do you have any lasting comments to add, Anthony?
Believe it or not, Dan, you know what? I don't.
All right. Alright, and, I would, like to end it by saying, want you guys all to remember that there's only one way to talk wrestling.
Intelligently.